Well, a few of you might have heard about my bout with COVID that caused an asthmatic flare. Um, However, most of you have not. So I'm going to share this testimony. On June 2nd, I tested positive for COVID for the very first time, and I got very sick and had several visits to the emergency room and urgent care, my primary care physician, including many calls to the doctor and talking to the triage nurse. Anyway, I take my meds and, I've been given and I feel better until I wasn't feeling better again. So I'd call my doctor's office and talk to the triage nurse again and again and again. All right, so between the coughing and the wheezing and the snoring, and by the way, I don't snore, but the snoring sounded like a freight train was running through my bedroom, and it kept me awake most of the night. So one morning I woke up after a few hours of sleep, and I know something wasn't right because I was struggling to breathe. So the nurse at the doctor's office told me to go back to the ER. But then that was after she was assured that I didn't need to call 911. It's a long story, so I'll just get to the testimony part. So the second time I went to the ER, they took me to the room very quickly and began running tests and scans, and three different nurses tried to insert a line into my arm to take blood so that they can run this contrast dye in order to do the scan of my chest. The first nurse was able to insert a line, a child-sized line into my arm so that she can take blood and give me um, saline after I was given a breathing treatment. So the second nurse, I'll call him Joe, he came in and he tried to insert a bigger line for the contrast dye, and he was having trouble. He tried one arm, he tried the next arm, and nothing was happening. So he called us a third nurse. I'll call him Jay. So he was having trouble also. So I didn't want him sticking me any more than I was already stuck. So I said, okay, Jay, I'm going to pray about this situation. He said, okay. And I began to thank God and to pray for God to give Jay all that he needed to find a good vein and the confidence to do so without any problems. Then I heard, and I stopped, and then I heard the Lord saying, pray some more, ask for more. So I said, Lord, and I don't know where this came from. It just came out of my mouth. And I said, Lord, bump up the size of of the right veins so Jay could find it without any problem. And as soon as I said in Jesus' name, the nurse Jay said, there it is, all done. I didn't even hear him say that I'll feel a needle stick or anything. I didn't feel one. So I'm telling you guys this because praying while you're waiting for stuff like that is a distraction. You won't feel the stick. So anyway, both of us were smiling, and Jay just joined me in praising God for answered prayer. Jay left the room and Joe came back in to take me for the scan. So he said Jay made him look bad, even though he was better at inserting lines. So I had to set him straight and tell him, hey, Jay had help from above. And so at that point, he joined in thanking God and praising God for his help. So when the first nurse, when she came in, to give me the steroid shot, she saw the second line and she was commenting on it. And that gave me an opportunity to testify what God had done. And so she began praising God and said that sometimes she too has to ask God to help her out. I don't know if the other two nurses told her anything or not, but what I'm saying here is intimacy with Christ allowed me to hear his voice clearly telling me to ask for more, and he answered that prayer. So I don't think that was bad for spending 2 or 3 hours in the ER. You get three nurses praising and thanking God with you. So anyway, for several days afterwards, there were two black and blue spots on both elbows where they had tried to to find a spot. And the funny thing is, the spot that the Lord gave to Jade to insert the line was just a pinprick of a mark. And after, by the end of the day, I couldn't even tell where it was. So it was a blessing for me, and it caused me to know how much God cared for every single detail in my life. And having said that, I must tell you that I was very encouraged that even while in the emergency room, Jesus was right there with me. He heard me, He answered my prayer, and no matter what trials I was facing, I didn't have to worry because I know He was carrying me through it all. I could rest securely in Him. He's my friend, He's the lover of my soul. And it caused my faith to increase even more. And I knew that I could persevere throughout this issue that I was going on with, because He loved me and He cared for me and He is for me. James 1 2 to 3 says, tells us to consider it pure joy whenever we encounter various trials. So even as I had been homebound for weeks, I could still joyfully praise and thank the Lord. I could still tell of His goodness and mercy, as we all can whenever we go through the trials. He keeps His promises. His word is true and it can be trusted. How do I know this? Well, Jesus healed me from asthma before, and I know He will heal me again. The difficulties I've gone through has led me to draw strength from our great physician. I've grown in character, hope, and I've grown even closer to Him, trusting Him even more than before. The result is I have a joyful and confident attitude, which can only come from being in an intimate relationship with Christ. So I hope this speaks to you and this helps you in some way. Thank you for listening.